Hello, Connecticut. I'm sitting here with Ethan Book of the 128th, Bridgeport, and we've been talking about a lot of issues over time, and today he'd like to do a little bit of an expose on his opponent, who he's run 4 times in the past, in 2016, 18, 20, and even prior to that, correct?
2014 was the first time.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, Ethan would like to read a letter that touches upon mental health issues, Alzheimer's, dementia, and possible misconduct or wrongdoing from his own state rep. So if you would kindly listen, I think Ethan wants to read you a letter. Go ahead, Ethan.
Yes. Thank you, John. I describe myself as the Bridgeport Republican.
Don't. Just me bringing it up.
I describe myself as the Bridgeport Republican. We've made good progress, but in the process, we've seen some things that look questionable about the dealings of State Rep Christopher Rosario, and more has surfaced recently, which really is pungent and is rather serious. Today, I delivered a letter to the acting chief of police of the city of Bridgeport, Rebecca Garcia, and this is a result of conversations that I had recently with Leslie Gonzalez, the sister of Christopher Rosario, and Uncle Jose Morales. And so I really think, because of the detail involved and the significance, we're talking about some things that are very substantial and potentially very serious. I would like to simply read the letter. It will take about 10 minutes, but I really think it's important to have this before the public view. If you'll please bear with me. Dear Chief Garcia, this pertains to calls made to the police phone receptionist number in November of 2020 and July 2021 by Leslie Gonzalez, sister of Christopher Rosario, currently serving as state rep for the 128th District. During the brief calls, Ms. Gonzalez, Leslie, described evidence which constituted probable cause that Mr. Rosario, Chris, and Mrs. Rosario, his wife, Katheryn, had committed criminal larceny by the way of fraud, primarily in using the debit card and food stamp account of Iris Colon, the mother of Chris and Leslie, and resident on French Street in Bridgeport. The amount of larceny over a 3-year period reached an approximate total of $27,000, and the diversion of funds from housing and food support, which should have been available to Mrs. Colon, the mother, who has suffered from debilitating dementia since 2016, resulted in late 2020 as near starvation, for which she was hospitalized in November of 2020. In both calls from Leslie, the police receptionist advised that it was a matter for which she should pursue a civil lawsuit against Chris and Katheryn, his wife. My question for starters is, what discretion and authority would a police department receptionist have in making a decision that there would be no criminal remedy for apparent substantial and abusive criminal larceny and elder abuse? Black's Law Dictionary, 6th edition, begins its definition of probable cause as follows. Reasonable cause, having more evidence for than against. A reasonable ground for belief in certain alleged facts. A set of probabilities grounded in the factual and practical considerations which govern decisions of reasonable and prudent persons, and is more than mere suspicion, but less than the quantum of evidence required for conviction. The case citing for that is U.S. versus Reimer, D.C. District Court of Ohio, number 392, Federal Supplement 1291 and 1284. My information on this arises from a lengthy conversation I had yesterday with Leslie Gonzalez, Chris's sister, and her uncle, their uncle, Jose Morales. Basic facts follow. Leslie had been living with her husband in New Jersey. She had been aware that Ms. Colon, the mother, had been diagnosed with dementia. She had been told that Chris Rosario was looking after her. Chris Holt told her that the probate judge had given him authority over the mother's affairs, including financial affairs. The brother of Leslie and Chris is Virgilio Rosario, or Virgilio, we would say in English. Virgilio reportedly has a very long rap sheet of alleged serious offenses and convictions of robbery and drug-related convictions. In a more recent conviction of robbery and related, Chris reportedly used his political influence with a judge to shorten Virgilio's sentence by 3 years. In November 2020, Virgilio called Leslie from jail. He advised her that their mother was in the hospital and in a very emaciated state. She was near starvation. Leslie immediately came to Bridgeport from New Jersey to see what was happening. She saw her mother in the hospital, having lost 40 pounds. She came to the house with her uncle Jose and a caregiver, Jasmine, from AM/PM. They saw that there was no food in the house and little of anything else. They saw a butter container with finger marks where the mother had clawed in for food, with the high concentration of butter giving her diarrhea. The AM/PM supervisor declined to make a report to the state. Leslie, the sister, began to investigate. She learned that Chris never had any authority over the mother. Nonetheless, she learned that Chris and his wife, Katheryn, had obtained possession of the mother's debit card for the bank account where $880 of Social Security funds were deposited monthly, and also her food stamp card where $153 monthly was credited. However, instead of using the cards to pay the mother's bills, most of the funds were used for Chris and Katheryn's personal expenses, for matters such as ATM withdrawals, with one withdrawal of $600 drawn by Chris, also for Uber Eats, restaurant food for their kids, Chris's cell phone, charges for calls for his brother in jail, Virgilio, and Chris and Katheryn's cable costs, and over 1,100 charges by an 8-year-old special needs daughter for video games. Most of the food stamps were not used for the mother. Rather, Chris would occasionally come by to give her food he had received from donated sources. Leslie reports that when she arrived in November of 2020, the mother's bank account was overdrawn by $232. The rent was delinquent by $150. The light bill was delinquent by $370, and the cable bill by $498. Reportedly also, Chris had the mother's Section 8 and food stamp address changed to his own address, also on French Street, several doors down. However, the Section 8 and food stamp administrators typically ask the beneficiaries to annually update their applications. For 3 years, Chris had received the request for application renewal, but he didn't do anything about it. When Leslie arrived, his sister, she became aware of the notices of imminent cessation of these government services. They were going to end the Section 8 and food stamps. So Leslie spent much time in lines getting these matters resolved. At a point that Chris was confronted with this information, his initial response was, "Oh, I wasn't aware of the extent of my wife's fraud." No comment about his own fraud. As evidentiary support for this matter, I provide attached the mother's bank statements with Bank of America for the monthly periods beginning December 15th, 2017, December 17th, 2019, and October 17th, 2020. These are enclosures to the letters that I delivered to the acting chief of police. I have available 39 monthly bank statements for the 3+ years that this devious and harmful activity was taking place. In addition, I provide copies of 2 messages sent by Leslie Gonzalez to the sister to Chris, dated November 20th, 2020 and December 4th, 2020. They are also enclosures to the letter. The emotional hurt of Leslie and frustrations with Chris and his wife, not to mention the great financial cost to her for putting the mother's matters in order and properly caring for her, are apparent in those messages. To add insult to injury, Leslie has a recording of Chris arguing before the state legislature in favor of a bill to reduce phone charges for inmate calls, saying that his costs for calls to his brother are depriving his family of food.
You want us to play a short video?
After this paragraph.
Okay.
Also, there is a video of Chris speaking before the legislature on June 3rd, 2021, recognizing his mother's birthday and commending her for her role in their family's life. John, can we play that video?
We can.
Serving here in the legislature is a great honor and privilege, and oftentimes we miss a lot of family events, whether it be a baseball game, a soccer game, anniversaries, and many times birthdays. And today is my mother Iris' 69th birthday, and she's at home watching on CTN with my sister, who's her full-time caregiver. And my mom's been fighting a courageous battle for over 9 years battling Alzheimer's. So we cherish every single smile, hug, kiss, and every birthday. So with that being said, happy birthday, Mami. Bendición. Te quiero mucho. God bless.
Well, to say the least, I wasn't terribly impressed by that presentation by Chris Rosario before the state legislature. Continuing on my letter to the acting chief of police. Further, despite Chris's claims of having graduated from Harding High School, Leslie, his sister, assures that 2 months prior to the scheduled graduation, Chris called her with tears, saying he wasn't going to graduate. There is an additional serious concern for both Leslie and me. Chris's brother, Virgilio, leads a Jekyll and Hyde life, reportedly mainly Hyde. It appears that he has had his enablers, and despite recently completing the most recent felony sentence of incarceration, and despite being now on probation, he continues to live on the edge. After being released from incarceration only 5 months ago, Virgilio has hooked up with a woman who lives large. Only working as a receptionist with a local towing company, she is flush with money, reportedly having given $27,000 to Virgilio for delinquent child support, and giving to Virgilio a car which he, in turn, gave to brother Chris Rosario, our state representative. In one conversation which Leslie had with Chris in the presence of Virgilio, Chris told Leslie that Ethan Book is making my life miserable. Virgilio then piped in, "Don't worry about Ethan Book. We'll take care of him and the lady downstairs. One day her SUV will be blown up and I won't have anything to do with it." Leslie has a recent video of Virgilio also swearing that as soon as their mother dies, you will die. Just after that, when they were in the hallway, he added, "If you call the police and I go to jail for you, you're dead." Leslie Gonzalez is understandably concerned. I am also. These people can be mean and devious. Back to my primary question for our acting chief of police. What discretion and authority would a police department receptionist have in making a decision that there would be no criminal remedy for substantial and abusive criminal larceny and elder abuse? We will greatly appreciate your full prompt reply. Sincerely, Ethan Book. By penalty of perjury, I attest that all the foregoing is true and correct to the best of my knowledge and understanding. I thank you for your attention. I'd like to share the words of federal Judge Kenneth Starr, who was the famous prosecutor for the Clinton impeachment investigation. As he was a federal judge, someone came to him and asked a question about when he was a private attorney and his record in dealing with cases, and the reporter asked, Judge Starr, would you please explain to us briefly your comment on your record of legal victories and legal failures while you were a practicing attorney? And Judge Starr quickly responded saying, oh, I never had any legal losses. All I had were legal victories and issue developments. Well, I know what exactly Kenneth Starr was saying. I appreciate you, Kenneth Starr, and this is what we're seeing in development. We're seeing in Connecticut. We're seeing issue developments, and a question that I would pose to the audience here. We supposedly live in the Constitution state, in Connecticut, the Constitution state. My question, is that truth or illusion? God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ethan, for appearing. It's always troubling to find out that people who are in need, as in the mother, may have gone for months without food while the SNAP benefits, correct me if I'm wrong, not getting your food stamps or your check from welfare or Social Security to pay for, basic human needs during a pandemic, when you're assuming that, right, the caregiver,
correct,
is watching over the elderly. This is clearly an ADA violation, and we're looking into it. We have someone we've called at the state who's very good at deciphering, where to draw the line. So I'm kind of glad you came forward. Exposing problems is the only way we can fix them. So it takes courage knowing you're being threatened, that if you come forward that you shouldn't say something. But unfortunately, in our line of work, having no voice is the reason why, the leadership of the Republican Party has to speak up. Having no voice and being in the minority is one thing, but the voice that you have may be there to protect the mother. Your voice is important to her, and clearly the sister now. For his sister to trust you over him makes me believe that you're on the right track. I support you. Everyone who supports me supports you. That's a lot of people, folks. We're gathering some momentum, and we need people to step up for what's right. What's right is making sure people with dementia or Alzheimer's, whatever the confusion is, knowing who the caregiver is. Well, why is someone else holding the credit card of the woman scratching at the butter tray? Bring her to my house. I'll feed her.
I think many of us would feed her, John. Thank you.
Very good, Ethan. I'm glad you stepped up. Always there, helping everyone he knows. He's been monumental in bringing out the mortgage fraud in Bridgeport, which is now alive and well in Stamford. And this goes all the way up to the office of the Chief Court Administrator, Mr. Carroll, who answers no questions. So here we go. A problem in Bridgeport, similar to a problem in Stamford, I'm sure. People with dementia, really, the people who get hurt worst, the most during a pandemic, are the people with no voice. Tell me the condition of the mother.
Well, she has gained 40 pounds since November of 2020, and she's looking better, but in her condition, she's weakening. But yesterday, Leslie, the daughter, and I prayed with Iris, the mother, and as we prayed with her, we could see her spirit brightened up. She smiled. She responded. It was like she came to life. Something is happening, and it's good. And what we are doing is we are dispelling the clouds.
I mean, she can't go over her own statements. She can't follow her own card. She can't go to the supermarket and get basic necessities.
No, let me add one other interesting point in this season where there have been many questions about the election of 2020, and that is that records of the registrars of voters show that her mother voted regularly in elections up until November of 2018. However, the Alzheimer's, she voted regularly in general elections and primary elections for every election up until November 2018. However, the Alzheimer's, or excuse me, the dementia, really debilitated her physically and mentally, beginning in 2016, where she could not have gone to vote in person, and she could not have made decisions about who and how to vote for. I have brought this to the attention of the Bridgeport registrars of voters, and I'm waiting for their responses, comments. This looks dubious. There are some other irregularities surrounding the mother that we're aware of and that we'll bring out in good time. Other irregularities regarding the voting issues for her that we're aware of that we will bring out in time. But this is just kind of an hors d'oeuvre to kind of sweeten your appetite as far as things that are developing, and they look positive. Justice is good. The wheels of justice move slowly. The bad part of that is that they move slowly. The good part is that they move.
You know, when you listen to Chris speak on the floor about the care he has for his mother and how important she is on her birthday to him, when you find out he's actually using her credit card, which she's not using, and there is a real question about how much care she actually received, makes you wonder if he's on the stage milking a clearly unethical situation and turning it into, some kind of praise of his own. Excuse me? Did he say that his sister was the caregiver after he told us in that letter that he was the primary caregiver, and now at some point it switched to the sister through intervention? Is that the way it works?
Well, he said that, and he had told the sister while she was in New Jersey that he had gotten authority from the probate court,
which never happened.
Correct, to give her care. That never happened. After she came here, she got that authority, and she is legally the conservator of the mother at this point.
Hats off to the sister, my friends.
Yes, she is doing a phenomenal job.
You know, if she didn't step up, I think we'd have one less stocking by the chimney this year.
That's very possible. We hate to consider it in those terms, but the sister, Leslie Gonzalez, has done a phenomenal job. I mean, she is here separated from her husband, who's still in New Jersey. They have spent thousands of dollars. She spent a lot of her own savings to bring things current, to get some furniture in the house, in the apartment, to bring things current, and to have some stability. And that in addition to the many hours that she spent. I mean, she's told me that she spent thousands of dollars.
I'll donate. Anyone else willing to donate?
Easy Pass going back and forth between here and New Jersey. Yes, we can talk about a GoFundMe.
We can set it up through Channel 12, and we can do a story on it, given the facts. So stay tuned. If you want to help in this situation, just contact either one of us, and I'll make sure it gets done. Thank you very much. Pleasure. Ethan, thanks for coming over.
Thank you, everybody.
Cost me a Merlot. You drive me a hard bargain.
Thank you, I talk better after half a glass of Merlot.
Very good. Thanks, Connecticut.